Thank you. Good evening. So Jobs for Dyslexics serves such an important role in the lives of individuals who have dyslexia, and the areas addressed in this organization are ones that are near and dear to me. And so it's a real honor for me to be here tonight. My whole career, I have worked to support children and adults who learn differently. Or put in other words, those who experience unexpected underachievement in the areas of reading, writing, or math, and at times also in their ability to focus and organize. So throughout my career, I've watched how effective supports can move children and adults into successful situations that harness their strengths while also accommodating their areas of challenge. So it's important that we, as a society, find ways to tap into the strengths of those who may learn differently, because this population has much to offer in terms of providing unique problem-solving skills and out-of-the-box thinking that were honed after years of working in school systems where their ways of viewing and doing things were not mainstream. So not necessarily fitting into the mainstream school setting may have built up a set of unique problem-solving skills, but there were also emotional factors that affect students who do not seem to benefit from the same instruction as their peers. So a hallmark of learning disorders, including dyslexia, is unexpected underachievement. So because the struggle with developing early reading, math, and writing skills was so unexpected by both the students, parents, and teachers, there's an emotional toll experienced by those with learning disabilities and their families. So put simply, a person with dyslexia is someone with average or an often above average intelligence who has challenges working with our language's phonemic system. So and as a result, has challenges reading and recognizing words. So these challenges with our phonemic systems are completely independent of intelligence. So meaning that someone with dyslexia may struggle to read the words in a particular story or newspaper article and therefore not comprehend it because the words on the page are not being recognized accurately. However, if the same text were read to the same individual, the content of the story or article would be understood well. So this is why we can say that the challenges with reading were unexpected. So from what we can observe from the individual in terms of intelligence or listening comprehension skills, he or she should be able to read the story article and easily understand it. So I keep returning to this notion that the challenges were unexpected because this is the reason that many individuals with dyslexia, along with their families, have encountered many incredible, frustrating moments and received messages that were not accurate and, quite frankly, painful. So many children who identified as having dyslexia began schooling with the expectation that they would be able to move along the same way that other students would, because there was no reason to expect otherwise. So however, during early reading exercises in school, they found that they were having a lot of difficulty in something that their peers were picking up in a way that seemed easy to them. Often, their teachers were surprised that they were not moving along with these early reading exercises as well as the others. And because they seemed so capable in other ways, like for instance, had great speaking skills, had a vast knowledge of dinosaurs or construction equipment. So teachers may have subtly or overtly began suggesting that students with dyslexia were just not trying hard enough. The word lazy tends to creep up or suggests that a child just doesn't want to learn. So something else the adults that I've worked with found embarrassing and disheartening was when they asked a question in elementary school and the teacher's reply was like, "Weren't you listening? I said that like so many times." Statements like those are confusing to a child who's feeling frustrated and trying hard. It's also embarrassing to be experiencing these challenges while your peers seem to be moving along without much difficulty. Many dyslexic students and adults speak of the huge embarrassment and ridicule they experience when they read aloud in school. It's very hard emotionally to experience academic failure at such an early age in what seems to be a public stage. And that is why many students who entered in preschool and kindergarten, with an eagerness to learn and participate in class, begin to retreat in the background and try very hard to blend in and avoid asking questions. The coping mechanisms of avoiding, deflecting, and attempting to blend in may be helping students survive in classrooms that don't understand them, but in young adulthood, these coping mechanisms become maladaptive and create additional barriers. These maladaptive coping mechanisms can become barriers in life, greater barriers in life, rather than having difficulty with reading, decoding, or other basic academic skills. So how do individuals break away from the trauma of early childhood experiences of failure and move on to find success? So you may find it surprising that research focusing on successful adults with dyslexia that seeks to identify the attributes contributing to their success found that none of the attributes are related to their intelligence or their current reading levels. The Frostig Center in California, a center supporting the needs of students with learning disabilities, conducted a 20-year longitudinal study and traced the lives of students who entered their center between the years of 1968 and 1975. Many aspects of the participants' lives were monitored and assessed, and at the conclusion of the 20-year study, they identified the adults who were successful and assessed the attributes they possess. Success was measured by good friends, positive family relations, being loved, self-approval, job satisfaction, physical and mental health, financial comfort, spiritual contentment, and overall sense of meaning in one's life. So in addition, the research team sought to understand why, despite similar background and learning difficulties, some of the students ended up happy and satisfied, productive members of society, whereas others were barely able to keep up their heads above the waters emotionally, socially, and financially. So the analysis relieved a set of what they termed success attributes that differentiate the two groups. The successful group illustrated greater, 1, like self-awareness, 2, proactivity, 3, perseverance, 4, appropriate goal setting, 5, use of support system, and 6, good coping strategies. So further analysis showed that these 6 success attributes were highly predictive of achieving life success when compared to such factors as academic achievement, gender, socioeconomic status, and ethnicity. This is not to say that these factors do not have a substantial effect on the life outcomes of persons with learning disabilities, but rather that research data have shown that these attributes may play an even greater role on these individual lives. So let's take a look at these attributes and what is meant by each of them. So self-awareness, number 1. So students who are self-aware refer to themselves as dyslexic or learning disabled. They're open about their difficulties. They recognize and accept talents along with limitations. They describe life events in terms of their learning disabilities, but are not overly defined by their difficulties. Number 2 is proactivity. Students who are proactive are actively engaged in the world around them, consult others while making decisions, and are able to make decisions and act on those decisions to control their lives. 3, perseverance. So students are able to persevere, keep pursuing goals despite adversity. They find a way around obstacles to their progress, and they know when to quit. Appropriate goal setting, number 4. Students with strong goal setting skills set goals that are realistic and attainable. And the 5th attribute was the presence and use of effective social support systems. And students with strong social support systems seek out support, guidance, and encouragement with significant others, and are willing to accept support when offered. And 6, emotional coping strategies. Students with strong emotional coping skills acknowledge that their learning disability creates significant stress in their lives. A key component of coping strategies is recognizing what situations trigger stress and are seeking help and support. So finally, I want to leave you with the possibility that these attributes can be developed in students and adults. The Frostig Center has curriculum around development of these attributes, and schools supporting students with learning differences have adopted them, like the one that I work at the moment. We recognize that students need to overcome the baggage that comes from early experiences with failure. It's also important when you speak of the future, to students with learning disabilities, that you speak to it in positive terms. Because they will be able to find their niche, where their talents will be evident and their challenges can be managed. Many students have heard so many phrases to make them fearful of their future. Things like, you need to get ready because in 4th grade, you're not going to be able to do X, Y, or Z. Or in high school, you need to do this independently, so you better be ready. In college, professors are going to want you to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm afraid that you're not ready. So these negative messages move them to a place of fear about the future. And we could turn that around by speaking about the future in positive ways. So what's wonderful about my work with high schoolers and adults is that I see the future has much to offer, and the right academic and professional settings can provide arrangements to be truly successful in whatever manner success is defined. Thank you very much.